attitude. Mr. Hawley, Mr. Valentin has just raised a point saying that Human Rights Council is working based on the interest. So they suspend Russia because there is an interest on that, but they do not do the same thing with other countries. And for instance, the Zionist entity that still now they are committing genocide in Palestine, but no one dares to finger points for them. What are you saying about this? Is it really based on the interest?
Well, let me come back to that point in a moment, but let me start by countering a couple points that Valentin made. The majority of nations did not vote to suspend Russia. 93 voted to suspend Russia. 100 either voted against the suspension or abstained or didn't vote. 100 to 93. That's not the majority of nations, and the nations that are not condemning Russia are the largest nations in the world: India, China, Indonesia, countries with more than half the world's population. Secondly, the charges in Bucha, where's the investigation? The UN is going to turn that over to the Ukraine criminal prosecutor. How can you trust that to be a fair and honest investigation? The Russians were saying, before you rush to judgment, and by the way, this is what the Indians said, the Indonesians said, the South Africans said, where's the due diligence and due process? Any lawyer will tell you that you can make a charge, but you have to have evidence. And so far, the evidence exists only in the hands of the Ukrainian forces. And they definitely have a vested interest. Now to your third point, which I think is the really important one. Why was there no outcry when the U.S. leveled Fallujah, when the U.S. slaughtered Muslim civilians supposedly targeting Al-Qaeda and ISIS in Syria, in Iraq, in Afghanistan? Why was there no outcry when the U.S. stole $9 billion in Afghan funds in a country which is facing humanitarian crisis? As to your other point, why no humanitarian outcry over the treatment of the Palestinian population, who are kept enslaved in a ghetto with little access to the outside world, limited amounts of electricity and water? Where's the outcry on those human rights violations? Is it only a human rights violation if a white European is threatened? No, this has to do with the anti-Russian drive from the United Kingdom and the United States. And I think this is something which discredits the United Nations. Now, I did a video the other day where I went after the Irish government for voting for this, and I got hundreds of emails from people from Ireland saying they're ashamed that their government went along with the UN vote to suspend Russia. So I don't think that the entire world is in agreement on this. The division is between those nations which insist they have a right to dictate the terms to the rest of the world, the so-called rules-based order, versus many nations that wish to defend their sovereign rights and the rights of their people to a better life. And I think that's the division. And I say again, I'm very upset that the Ukrainian government and NATO are turning the Ukrainian people into the victims of this proxy war against Russia.